Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to another read along. I'm so excited to be back because I just have really been enjoying silent readings, read alongs. I mean, I've enjoyed Scumberlands as well, but Scumberlands is very heavy with regards to things happening with the main characters. So for that reason, like, it is a little bit more emotionally taxing for me. But yeah, so today we are continuing with silent reading, as I mentioned. Hi, I'm glad you could make it. The Muxiang clone, the infamous Muxiang clone. I haven't heard of that, but I shall trust you that it is indeed famous. Um, so today, just a quick recap. Basically, we are moving on to volume two technically, but because this is a fan translation, I kind of made the decision to keep going until we're at not volume, chapter 50, which is apparently where it starts uh, going further than the show did. So I felt like it would be good if we could get to chapter 50 at least. And what really helped me make this decision is the fact that I didn't realize how close we were to the end of Scumberland Self-Saving System Volume 2. And then we ended up finishing that last Sunday. So I realized like there's enough time for me to hopefully be able to finish up until chapter 50 with silent reading before I go on holiday. And then come the new year, we're gonna be starting with Urha. So I originally had a poll up about whether or not I should pre-film or should wait for the live, but because of the things working out the way that they did, and the fact that if things go the way that I'm expecting, we would basically be starting the lives when I'm away. I felt it was just better to rather wait and like finish this up and then have a 2 week 2 to 3 week break while I'm away, and then come back and start with Urha live. So that is the current plan. Um, and yeah, I think we can more or less get started. Oh, okay, it's infamous for a reason. That sounds very foreboding, but I'm very curious. There's also, I just want to mention the distinct possibility that going into 2024, I might be moving the lives to Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time. I'll have to see. But the problem with the current time, even though I chose it specifically because it would mean that more people would be able to join because it's the weekend and so on, it does mean that when I have something on the weekend, most of the time I'm unable to do the lives. So if I do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I can have a more consistent schedule with the lives, which is why I want to move it. But I'm still kind of like speculating on whether or not that's going to be a good idea. Okay, so with all of that said, I think we can basically just get into today's video. Okay, so we ended off with the end of volume 1. I do also have tea here with me and water, so. Okay, chapter 33, reading aloud. Having passed through a weekend's fermentation, early on Monday morning, the unsuccessful attempt to jump off a building above the sky screen exploded into pandemonium. Feidu had not yet left the parking lot before he met with two raiding parties and discovered that with the wave of a hand, he'd become internet famous. Oh, damn, okay, I mean, with his looks, can we blame them? Holding half a cup of already cooled London fog, President Fay mulled it over in his office. He felt that the money couldn't be thrown away, and neither could his fame. Therefore, he waved over his secretary and told her to go to the marketing department and have them put together a special plan in the company's name concerning corporate social responsibility, using this event as a pretext to make a fuss. That is very smart, but also I just realized, just give me a second, that um, I don't have the chat popped up, so I'm missing everything. Just give me a second. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. We'll see how it goes. What time zone are you in? Just out of curiosity. Where is the chapel? Okay. Um, uh, sorry, I'm struggling. Why is this being weird now? Hmm, I do this. Does this affect your guys' view of um the text at all? I hope not, because then that would be great. Okay. Sorry about that. The secretary click-clacked away at her laptop, recording her sudden inspiration. Before she left, she hung on the point of speaking for a while, the rims of her eyes reddening, and at last cautiously asked, President Fay, was everything you said in the sky screen true? Hmm? Faydu was flipping through his daily schedule. Hearing this, he looked up with a somewhat ridiculing, half-indulgent smile. Of course not. There was a suicide intervention expert behind me feeding me lines. They wouldn't let me say whatever I wanted in a situation like that. Mm-hmm. How can you take everything so seriously? It's too cute. Um, sir, that sounds like you lying. Just gonna call that out right now. The red flush spread from the secretary's eyes, uh, irons to her whole face. She made a scornful noise and turned to go. Hey, wait a second. Fedor called her to a halt with a bright smile. Does the company need me to peddle sex appeal at a dinner party today? Oh my shameless, utterly shameless. He's learning from Lo and Joe at this point, I feel. Full of thwarted maternal feelings, the secretary rolled her eyes. No, for the moment we have no use for that valuable, intangible asset. That's all right then. Fedu immediately peeled off his suit jacket and shut his laptop. Half an hour later, he had picked up Madeline from the hospital and was heading towards the city bureau with her. Wang Shujun was after all suddenly ill and no longer young. Having undergone a great grief, she'd been kept under observation at the hospital for a weekend and was only released to collect her Jomi's remains. The death of the young man from far away having brought with it a case of corruption and drug trafficking that shook the nation, Yan City Bureau had no choice but to form a cooperative task force with a discipline inspection committee and work around the clock. By comparison, the murder of Hojui wasn't attended so closely. Lo and Jo, Taran, Bang Chao, and the others who had taken on the case from the start were responsible for the follow-up work. The appearance of Hojumi's body had been taken care of. It no longer looked as dreadful as when he had been found by the side of the road. His face wore a look of serenity, painstakingly crafted by the mortician. Ooh, something about that creeped me out. Like the fact that it was painstakingly crafted by the mortician, it just. Oh no. Zhao Yulong and some of He Zhongyi's former co-workers spontaneously came to help, and Ma Xiaowei put in an appearance under the supervision of Shao Haiyang and a civil policeman. Zhang Donglai, having been pressured or something, entered the stage midway. He saw Feidu supporting Wang Shujin from afar and went over. His movements unnatural and uncoordinated, then rigidly nodded to Wang Shujin. He said, Auntie, I really wasn't the one who killed your son. He was tall and sturdy. Wang Shujin fearfully backed up half a step. Zhang Donglai again searched his guts and belly for thoughts. Although I actually did hit him. Oh my word. Maybe don't search your gut and belly for thoughts. That seems like a really bad idea. Um, no, he's natural and naturally way worse than Lao Lo. Mm-hmm. Hi, can't join today, but I want to say hi. I'll listen to it when I get back home. Hi, hope you have a good day. Okay. Chilly look scraped over him, and Zhang Donglai rubbed his nose awkwardly, shut his mouth, and didn't dare to say anything else. He made a gesture, excusing himself to mother her. He Zhongyi's mother, Wang Shujin, was very small and skinny. Every time Fei Du spoke to her, he had to bend down slightly, looking unusually gentle, not unnaturally. He dispatched Zhang Donglai with a look, then spoke into Wang Shujin's ear. If you really can't take it, I can handle the remaining formalities in your place. Huang Shijun shook her head. Then she shook off Feidu's hand and staggered a few steps forward. Suddenly, seeming to remember something, she turned back and asked, Did Mai Zhongyi do something wrong? Some bad thing he shouldn't have done? Feidu lowered his eyes and met her gaze. After a while, he said quietly but firmly, No, Auntie. Zhao Haocheng was very crafty. He could shirk and tell sob stories, quibble and confuse the issue to the highest degree. Having heard his declarations, you would think that all of society was great morass. I've never heard of that. And he alone was a white lotus, growing unsullied from the mud, blooming in the midst of persecution. Only relying on the traces Lang Chao and the others had pulled together off-site, as well as Lowendrill's traps and cheats, could they draw the least bit of truth from his mouth and assemble a ragged sequence of events. Bearing hope and pressure, He Zhongyi had come from a remote little mountain village to turbulent Yan City. His eyes had been filled with the rush of traffic and the glamorous young men and women, the boys and girls his own age, brimming with youth as they entered their campuses, each one of them camera ready. But he had just arrived, without friends or connections. He could only live in the most run-down of apartments, stepping in dirt daily. He went back and forth between his job and apartment, accompanied by the smell of the sewers. Aside from an apathetic middle-aged man, the people around him were ill-taught little devils. Pornographers, okay, gamblers, druggies, all kinds of wretches. But he wore his fingers down, keeping track of their accounts in his notebooks, scrimping and saving, unwilling to waste a single minute, always wanting to do a little more, so he could hurry and clear his debt, return the money, pay for his ailing mother's treatment. Occasionally he fantasized that one day he would be able to establish a foothold in the city. Ever since he was little, there had been someone he'd worshipped. Though he rigorously observed the arrangements and didn't tell anyone about his existence, he still couldn't resist wanting to get closer to him. Fengnian Dage avoided him, was unapproachable. He Zhongyi turned it over in his mind and thought maybe it was because he himself was too poor. In this enormous Yan city, each day was a rush. Who had it easy? Of course, he wouldn't want a poor relation sponging on him day in and day out. He could only carefully maintain a basic link with that person, occasionally paying his respects and desperately saving money. He needed to pay respects, even if that person had no time for him. He had borrowed his money, so it would have been unprincipled to break off the connection now. With the difficulty, he had saved the first installment, 200,000 yen. Sorry, 20,000 yen. Not enough for the young masters to throw away on a bottle of wine, but still the most he had ever saved in his life. He had to collect it very carefully, didn't dare to brag, didn't dare to let anyone see, because next to him there was always the sticky-fingered roommate. He had no peace of mind holding on to the money. He wanted to hurry and return it so he could feel at ease, but Fang Liandage was hard to reach. He had no other choice. He had to go find Jiang Ting. He had occasionally seen her with Fang Liandage. He Zhongyi gathered up his courage and spoke to her, stuttering and hoping she could tell him where Daga had gone. He hadn't expected that he would scare the girl instead. It wasn't that an in, uh, it wasn't that an ingratiating stranger was frightening. What was frightening was poverty and indignity. The girl's acute reaction had brought a beating down on him, but that was nothing. The person had been there watching, had calmly intervened, ended the altercation without looking up, as if he'd never seen him. At that moment, He Jung-yi belatedly realized that Fang Nian-dage perhaps didn't want a fellow provincial like him at all. They weren't relatives, and they weren't friends. It turned out that he was like a speck of dust flung on a stainless white shirt that couldn't be washed off, even if this person had afterwards perfunctorily tossed him a new model phone. Yeah, yeah, it was sad. He thought once he'd returned all the money, he wouldn't contact him again. Once, while delivering goods, he'd seen Fang Niandage from afar, talking and laughing happily with his friends. He deliberately avoided them, didn't go make a nuisance of himself, and fortuitously heard them say they were planning to go to the place called the Tianguang Mansion for an opening event. He Zhongyi's body was covered with a white cloth and lifted. The rims of Wang Shijian's eyes filled with blood at once. Her knees gave out, and she sank to the ground. Everyone rushed over at once, wanting to pick her up. Her cloudy tears welled out of the corners of her eyes, seeping into the white hair at her temples. She grabbed the sleeve cuff of the person next to her. I taught him to treat people well, to do everything properly. Did I teach him wrong? No one could answer the question. They could only feel silent. Wang Xujian's education level was limited. She basically couldn't read the testimonial. Taran had to wait for her mood to steady a little, then ask her to sit down. He read it to her line by line, explaining each word and each sentence. When he had finished explaining a sentence, Wang Shijian would nod dazedly. She wasn't wailing, only sitting quietly to one side, tears flowing continuously down her face. Head down, Zhang Donglai shuffled over to Fei Du, kicking at a pebble on the ground with the tip of his foot. Squirming awkwardly, he said, Master Fei, Ting Ting sent me to ask, uh, what the hell is all this? My uncle, too, had to change his post because of this, resigned from active duty ahead of time. Did my family offend Taisui this year? Assuming there's a reference there, but I'm not sure what it is. Um, being a good boy is worth nothing in the society. Dan Priest world bullying. Yeah, no, it is like it's a very harsh. I don't want to say reality check because I think unfortunately it kind of depends on your station in life whether or not that is a reality check. But I guess that in itself is a reality check. Oops. Feidu was looking towards Wang Shijian from several steps away. Suddenly he said, "Did you find that striped grey tie?" Zhang Donglai stared. "What?" "No need to keep looking. That tie is on the city bureau," said Feidu. "The victim, He Zhongyi's blood is on it. And your fingerprints. Someone picked it up from your car and turned it in." Zhang Donglai opened his mouth and stared, tongue-tied, for an age. His rusted brain finally rumbled through its reflex arc, and he faintly understood what Feidu had said. He dumbly reached out a hand, swept the projecting hair off of his forehead, and pronounced a brief and deeply felt "Hell." Sorry, I'm not gonna curse. Feidu patted his shoulder. "You should tell Ting Ting to stop asking and promptly cut her losses. Slow down. Wait." Zhang Donglai waved his hand dizzily. "You're saying someone stole my tie and killed him and wanted to put it on me? Is that what you mean?" Feidu looked at him, making no comment. "No, that couldn't be. Haven't I been really kind to him? To Zhao Haocheng? Would you project Would your project have come his way just based on his position at Rongxun? I was the one who made the introduction. When Tintin brought him home, my mom and dad didn't object either. They received him like a new son-in-law, as considerately as you could want. What did I do to bother him?" That's a fair question. This dum-dum. Yeah, he's not the most with it person. Feidu thought about it and answered, "Breathe." Zhang Donglai was speechless. Using his limited brains, Zhang Donglai considered for an age. He was still disbelieving. He whispered, "That couldn't be. I feel like... Is that Law and Jaw reliable or not? How could he... If that Law and Jaw weren't reliable, the murderer sitting in there and waiting for public persecution would be you." Law and Jaw himself had at some point strolled over, and next to them he pointed at Zhang Donglai. "Young master, wise up a little." Oh no. Like, I appreciate his entrance and all, but a part of me had thought, like for that glorious moment, had thought that it was Feidu standing up for him. I was like, oh, are we actually getting that? But no, unfortunately not. Zhang Donglai was a little scared of him. As soon as he saw Lu Wenzhou, his calf muscles cramped. This time, having been overheard talking about him behind his back, didn't dare to make a peep. He took fright and ran. Luanzhou slowly walked over to Feidu and stood with his hands clasped behind his back, focusing on the eternal parting taking place not far from them. What will happen to her afterwards? The Economy and Trade Buildings boss took this opportunity to work up some enthusiasm, said Feidu. He wants to take the lead in sponsoring an elderly bereaved villagers foundation. He took the opportunity, you say, or did you help encourage him? I don't know. The wire copy has already been sent out. It should be able to shoulder her future medical and living expenses. Although although money could be given, but a person couldn't be brought back. Others could care for her materially, but there was no one who could bring back her son. Right. Lorenzo took some photographs from a folder he had. "I have something to give you." In one photograph was a fountain pen in an evidence bag. Though through the camera lens, you could still sense the quality of the pen. Okay. The character Fei was carved on the cap. from Jaha Chung's collection. Look familiar? Is it yours? Wait, what? Was this a thing that they showed in the show? I can't remember. Okay. I think they might have, but I don't think I really internalized that. Yeah, no, the banter is great. I do like the show equivalent of Jang Dong Lai a little bit more, just because he did actually seem to have a little bit of remorse of the situation, which I appreciated. But unfortunately, the reality is that a lot of people wouldn't change in those kinds of situations, even if they were given the opportunity. Um, he had hoped to see some astonishment on President Fei's face. Oopsie. But Fei Du only glanced at it and, perfectly unsurprised, said, "So you had it? I lost it on Christmas last year." Damn. Yep, this was the pen he didn't want back because of the burnt smell. Oh, okay. Hi. Uh, yeah, I think there was just so much going on that I kind of didn't really think about it. Low and jaw, dot dot dot. The date was the exact same as Jaha Chang's record. If he hadn't known better, he would have thought Fedu had given it as a gift. When I can't find something, I usually recall my state of mind before and after. Then I more or less know where I put it. Fedu shrugged. If I still can't find it, then someone must have taken it. Although there were many employees and clients who'd come into my office to avoid kicking up a fuss, I didn't make it public. I mean, it's a pen. I'm assuming it's a very expensive pen, but it's a pen nonetheless. I don't think you need to make it public. And this is like a very, very, very expensive pen, in which case you should have filed a police report. Um, You don't know what you don't want to know what the label was? Said Lowendraw. Pedro shrugged, his gaze falling on what was behind the fountain pen. The camera lens had been a little distant and had caught a corner of the lamp in Jaha Chung's basement. The tree lamp that looked like a biological specimen glowed quietly, like a distant gaze thrown out from beyond space and time, forever following the young villager who had one year changed his name. Ooh, why does that sound so creepy? Not especially, said Fedu. There's no need to return it to me when the case is over either. It picked up the smell of burning. I don't want it anymore. Having made the arrangements for Wang Shijian, Fedu didn't say a word to anyone else. He quietly left on his own and drove straight out of the outskirts. It was just past dusk and a touch overcast. In the cemetery, the shadows of the stones flickered, crows and sparrows flew low, and the smell of damp soil breathed up from the ground. And the deeply slumbering dead gazed at the living as they came and went. Carrying a bouquet of lilies, Fedu familiarly traced his steps for a seventh year and came to a somewhat old-fashioned tombstone. The countenance of the woman on this tombstone was pale, her expression melancholy, covered with a layer of fragile beauty, forever looking at him without fading. Oh, this is so depressing. Um, back at her for a while. He rolled up his sleeves and meticulously wiped the tombstone with a soft cloth. He held up two fingers, lightly kissed them, then pressed them onto the tombstone, for the first time showing a trace of a relieved smile in her presence. It seemed as if he had finally pushed away the coffin pressing down on his heart, and put it into the grave standing unoccupied, things coming to their due close. Oh, that was like the closure that we didn't get in the same way in the show. Like, obviously, there was a sense of it, but it wasn't as clear cut as the text is making it. So that's kind of nice. Um, for a while, he silently communed with the occupants of the tomb. He was just getting ready to leave when suddenly he felt a chill on his face. Without any portent, it had begun to rain in the outskirts. Law and Joe had no umbrella. He clicked his tongue and was about to run through the rain, using his arm to shield his head. He had just raised his hand when a dark shadow opened over his head. Law and Joe was startled. He turned his head swiftly. Fedu had at some point returned and was holding up an umbrella, looking at him with a rather complicated expression. And I realized I just skipped an entire paragraph. Let's go back, because how did that happen? Law and Joe watched over him from afar, then went over like a thief, put down a bunch of small white chrysanthemums, and bowed to the woman on the tombstone. Okay. Oh yes, okay. I'm not ready, but I'm so ready for this because as you pointed out, this is indeed one of my favorite scenes. I think like of the ones that we got in the show, this is probably my favorite scene, but also the like car scene and the birthday scene are almost on par or like very close seconds. I'm not sure. Yeah, like the poetic beauty of the scene and the drama, but also the like um lyrical beauty of the writing in the scene is 10 out of 10. I love all of this so much. Oh, okay. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Let me just. What's our time like? Okay, we're bit more than half an hour in, so I feel like we're on a good course to get 2 chapters done. Sorry, not 2 chapters, 4 chapters done today, in the 2 hours. And what I forgot to mention is, and I should have mentioned it at the start, because we are now done with Scumvillain, I'm gonna be doing silent reading both Saturdays and Sundays until we reach chapter 50. I feel like I should have clarified that more. Okay, are we ready? Chapter 34. Humbert Humbert 1. To draw a somewhat unsuitable comparison, Luo and Zhou's mental state at this moment was roughly the same as Zhao Chang's the first time he heard that a secret in the Fengqing winery had been discovered. Like being struck by lightning, he had been caught red-handed with the goods. The round little white flowers were stretching their stems out in the rain. Lowenthal stammering uh, Lowenthal stammeringly defended himself. Well, in fact, I just came here to have a look on my way. Tracing his route, one fears that this mighty Captain Lelua had been on his way to abscond to North Korea. There was no need for Feidu's ridicule. Lo and Joe himself had already realized that this bit of idiocy had a strong air of Jiangdong Lai to it. The way he's roasting himself, I can't. Yay. Same time, I'm sorry, but I need to know. Not Humbert? Did I? Did I pronounce it wrong? Um, but yeah, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be the same time. It's either gonna be the same time or it will be from 5 to 7 my time. So from 3 p.m. GMT to 5 p.m. GMT. Um, but yeah, that will kind of just depend on how my day goes tomorrow. That was just you being traumatized. Oh, great. Okay. At this moment, never mind if his skin had been only the thickness of an ordinary human body's, even if he'd borrowed the Great Wall to shield his face, he still wouldn't have been able to block Fedou's inescapable gaze. Flustered, Lo and Joe avoided his line of sight. Garb... gabbled? Gabbled? I've never heard the word gabbled. Gabbled some words at random and intended to grease his steps and slip clean away. You two go ahead and chat, said Lowendraw. I have work tomorrow. I'll be going. Sailing so what? Saving so. Saying so, he stepped away, ready to charge into the rain. But he had yet to experience the moisture of the great outdoors when the large black umbrella followed him like a shadow. Fedor hadn't taken a step. He had only stretched out the arm holding the umbrella. One shoulder was quickly soaked by the rain, forming a faint mist around him. Guys, I'm living for this. Then he quietly asked, So, you are the one who left these flowers? For 7 years, Fedou had come to the cemetery around the anniversary of her death. Sometimes, when he had delayed coming a little, he would unexpectedly encounter a bunch of small white flowers, rather lacking in taste. People came and went in the cemetery each day, and the manager was a sloppy incompetent from whom it was impossible to get any answers. There seemed to be no malice in it, so Fidu didn't mean to take too much note. He only considered several possibilities, without once thinking that it would be Lowendraw. Lowendraw very awkwardly assented, and then, dodging around the subject, said, Since I was already here, I figured I'd bring something. You... well, didn't you leave already? Fadu fixed him with a look that was even harder to read and asked in turn, How do you know I already left? Lowendraw, dot dot dot. Oh no. Very good. He felt his mental state limitlessly drawing closer to Zhao Chang's making a slip of the tongue. Feidu grandly shoved the heavy umbrella into his hand and bent down to pick up a silk cloth left behind beside the tombstone. I forgot to bring this with me. Entrusted by the young master with the important task of holding the umbrella, Lo and Joe couldn't leave but felt awkward staying. He could only follow Feidu, pretending to glance all around, admiring the scenery. The dignified and serene portraits of the occupants of the tombs neatly lined up all around, giving him glances of salutation one after another. The distant curtain of rain had tied the little mountain on the outskirts together with the grey sky. The mountain squirrels had gone back into their tree hollows and were not at home to callers. Lowendrill's gaze swirled around for an age, without finding any way to settle. Finally, as he accepted his fate, it turned to the small space under the black umbrella, falling on Fedou, the only living creature. The description. Yeah. Could you please make a community post of the time? What I am gonna be doing is as soon as I know, I'll set up the live for it. So then you can just click on the like notification reminder thing, if that's okay. Uh, Wonder, let me bury myself in this graveyard to escape the situation. Love priest. But also just Wonder. I love everything about this man so much. Oh, okay. And also the fact that he's like, okay, fine, I have tried to look at anything else except Feidu, but let me look at Feidu now since he's the only living creature. Lo and Joe discovered in wonder that provided the above-mentioned living creature wasn't spouting off and deprecating justice, righteousness, and the law, he turned out to be a tall and slender, level-shouldered, attractive man. His dark grey shirt was well-fitting and well-ironed. A small part of it was wet, clinging to his waist. In the eyes of someone orientated towards men, it could almost be called sexually appealing. Oh my word, what am I reading? Both eye and mind. Oh my. Are we a little bit thirsty, Lou and Joe? Do you need some water? There is rain if you need it. Oh my word. Suddenly, Feidu turned around. Lowendraw had no time to dodge, and their gazes lightly bumped together. Lowendraw's breath caught in spite of himself, but he very quickly came around and pulled back his mind, which had temporarily wandered off onto the wrong road. He coughed lightly. Is it alright if Gur says a few words to you? Feidu's face finally displayed the false smile familiar to Lowendraw. Captain Law, who are you being so familiar with? Please tell me somewhere. Okay, don't actually tell me. I don't want spoilers. Please tell me somewhere in this book there's a point where Feidu calls him Ge and like Lowenjo's not okay. Like I need that. I need that now. If they don't give it to us, I need a fic about it. I don't know. This long absent taunt finally broke through the tense atmosphere. Lowenjo inexplicably breathed in relief. He pointed at some small steps beneath a tombstone. Let's wait. You have to go down the mountain on the way back. With rain this heavy, it could easily be dangerous. Feydun non-committally sat down on the steps. Holding up the carbon fiber umbrella, Lowenjo felt the appearance he presented was of a flourishing mushroom. A flourishing mushroom. I don't know how to take that. Why does that sound so funny? I'm just looking carefully, looking respectfully, disdainfully. Respectfully, respectfully. Windsor brats are not my type. I mean, like, it depends. It depends. It depends. Um, but yeah. He turned to bow slightly to the woman on the gravestone, then sat down beside Feidu. Feidu gave Lo and Joe at least, the feeling that he was like the framed glasses resting on the bridge of his nose, seeming very exquisite, but in fact silently giving off a feeling of inhuman cold. Hi! Oh yeah, no, you missed the glory of Feidu being described as what's sexually appealing or something. Um, but yeah, no, we're having a lot of fun right now. But now, trapped under an umbrella, he was surprised to find that this person's body temperature wasn't cold at all. The sudden rain intensified, and the summer heat lay down its arms and went to the ground. A damp coolness assaulted the senses, increasingly setting off the warmth of the person next to him. Are we getting aware of Feidu now? Because that's what I'm seeing here. I come over here to have a look once in a while, Lowendraw spoke first. After all, it was the first case I handled that involved death. So it made a deep impression? Said Feidu. Yes. After Lowendor, what? Lowendraw's terse nod, he was silent for a while. Then he said, although it wasn't your mom that left a deep impression. Feidu carelessly said, Captain Law has seen all kinds of corpses, of course. I could never forget you, said Law and Joe. Feidu's words stopped. Yeah, mine too, at once. He almost choked at the statement. He turned his head and gave Law and Joe a stunned look, suspecting that he had eaten something funny. Lowendraw hadn't noticed that he had said something rather open to interpretation. His lightly calloused hands slowly rubbed the carbon fiber umbrella handle, and he stared fixedly at the blue stone slab in front of him, saying, I remember the weather that day was also pretty bad. Taran and I were phoning our elders to ask for instructions while we rushed desperately towards your house. Because the circumstances were unclear, we were afraid that if it had been a murder as part of a robbery, the killer could still be nearby, and you weren't willing to leave. What kind of danger could a child run into like that? Oh, yeah, that's true. How could I miss that? I don't know. I don't know, but it was glorious. I hope the re-listen will also still be glorious. Fedu seemed somewhat moved. He restrained his provoking smile that wasn't quite a smile. When we arrived, you were sitting on the stone step at your house's gate, just like this, said Louwendraw. Then you heard footsteps coming and raised your head to look at us. I've never forgotten your expression then. It had been a gaze so clear it had been nearly wild. It had seemed to be stifling never before uttered cries of help and ardent hopes, even though the boy's manner then had been controlled and introverted. It made me remember a story of my Shifu. He told me it was something that happened when he was young. He wouldn't even have been born then. It was a missing child case. Several children went missing in a row, all of them little girls around 10 years old. They got out of school and should have gone home, but then they never made it home, disappearing without anyone being the wiser. Our criminal investigation techniques were limited then. They basically didn't know what DNA was. To determine the victim's identity, they had to rely on clumsy means like blood groups and special characteristics proved by the victim's family. In the end, that case remained unsolved. None of the six missing girls were found. The father of one of the victims couldn't bear the shock. He fell apart and he was never entirely stable afterwards. Oh, Fedu didn't interrupt. He sat quietly beside him, listening. He came to the bureau 100 times without any outcome. That wasn't the only case going on. When there were no breakthroughs, everyone's eyes would have to turn away eventually. They sent a criminal policeman who was fairly good at talking to people to deal with the father, who wouldn't stop pestering them. That was my Shifu. As they had more contact, my Shifu took pity on him. sometimes counseling him to go forward. If he really couldn't get past the mental rut of the child, then he should have another one while he was still young. He didn't listen. No one helped him investigate, so he went to investigate himself. Several months later, he popped up one day, cornered my Shifu, and said that he'd found a suspect. At this point, Lorenzo paused and turned his head to look at Feidu's eyes. The corner of Feidu's eyes had thoroughly developed, their shapes still vaguely following the mold of when he had been younger, but what was inside them was not at all the same. At some point his gaze had become indolent, his eyes frequently half closed. Sometimes he would smile urbanely at someone, but his expression would be unfocused, full of abstraction. Of that stubborn, clear, and even somewhat paranoid look from before then, not a trace remained. Oh, oh. Okay, just I haven't checked the comments yet, but just be mindful of spoilers because I only know what happens up until episode 8 of the show, and that's where my knowledge of anything ends. So just be mindful of that. Um, if there was something else here. Oh, if you think about the description that we just got of Feidu, they did such a good job with, like, the actor for Peisu did such a good job with capturing all of that, in my opinion. Okay. Um, all of that seemed to only exist. Okay, there's a mistake there. All of that seemed to only exist in Lo and Joe's mind, an illusion he had concocted for himself. As the time he spent staring dumbly at Feidu drew on too long, Feidu couldn't resist putting in a word to disgust him. Harboring ill intent, his gaze swept over Lo and Joe's nose bridge and lips. Feidu lowered his voice and said, Captain Law, please don't pretend to be innocent at your age. Don't you know that this conduct of staring into someone's eyes usually means you're asking for to be kissed? Oh no. I already love this, like, the scene and the show, but this just made it so much better. Lorenzo was a veteran of 100 battles and not at all easy to disgust. He came around at once and unflappably returned fire. Don't worry, if I were asking anyone, it wouldn't be you, well. The two of them at the same time acutely felt that another battle was fermenting, and this time there was no Taran to intervene. All around them there was only the curtain of rain covering the sky, and the two of them had only one umbrella. There was only one bed. There was only one umbrella. There was nowhere to hide. They could only use their intellects, each forbear and retreat a step. They turned their heads away and closed their mouths at the same time. After a long time, Feidu's brows lifted lightly. What does the missing child case have to do with me? He asked impatiently. My Shifu described his expression back then. He said the father's eyes were like ice-cold grottos, with two fiercely blazing points of longing in them, burning his soul. When I saw you, for some reason I thought of what he'd said. Having heard this, Feidu raised his long, slanted brows high and snorted. Really? You had problems with your vision, or else your imagination was too abundant. And then what? He had identified a middle school teacher with a rather good reputation. The teacher was known far and wide as a good person. He had won a prize for public spiritedness, and he had been taken as a model worker, said Lowenjaw. Even though Mashufu thought he had lost his mind a little, he still went to investigate according to what the father had said. Privately, said Fedu, he was a teacher. If rumors got out, even if he were innocent, he'd never hear the end of it, so Mashufu only dared to investigate privately. He investigated for a long time without finding anything to purpose. Mashufu's suspicion that his father had a mental problem became even stronger. Then two of them parted on bad terms and Mashufu left it alone. But not long after that, there was a homicide. The father had taken a melon knife and stabbed the teacher he suspected. Felu let out a short, breathy laugh. Set your mind at ease. I definitely wouldn't stab anybody. Contract killers are more our style. Our? Who's our? Lorenzo ignored his provocation. The scariest thing was that while they were in the process of investigating the victim, they found the clothes of the missing girls in his basement, along with another unconscious girl. Lorenzo paused slightly, letting out a light and slow breath under the mask of the rain, remembering the old criminal policeman repeatedly urging him, if someone looks at you like that, it shows that he has expectations of you, and no matter what the outcome, you absolutely cannot fail to live up to those expectations. Ooh, so he's been carrying that mental burden for forever, probably. Like, it's not just what I'm meaning to say, it's not just Feidu that had expectations of it, it's Lo and Jo feeling those expectations and having those expectations of himself, almost, in my opinion. Having listened to the story that was like an urban legend, Feidu wasn't at all stirred. He only curiously asked, You have a shifu? An elder who took us around when we were starting working, said Lorenzo. I don't know whether Taran ever mentioned him to you. A few years ago, he gave up his life while arresting an offender. Fedu hesitated for a while, thinking with his brow knitted. This was 3 years ago? How do you know? Because I have no memory of it, said Fedu. 3 years ago, my dad had just had his accident, and I was tied up with all kinds of things. That was the only time I didn't contact Taran at all. When Law and Joel heard this, some sinew in his heart twinged wrong, and he blurted out a question. Do you really like Taran? So we're going there? Are we sure we're going there? I don't know if we should go there. I kind of want them to go there, but I'm scared it's not going to go the way I'm hoping. Okay, so it is 1 past now, so I need to take my 10 minute, but I just quickly want to see here. Um, all the actors were fantastic. It's a real shame that we had them for so little. Yeah. So true, I was so waiting for them to go through all the convoluted stuff. At least we got up to 60% of Arc 2, which was adequately horrible. It was intense. We were literally like two Victorian wives looking mournfully into the distance, waiting for our husbands, the show, to come back from the sea. The dot dots, yes. The dot dots indeed. And we're back to the obsession with Chato. I totally get it, boys, but get over him already. Okay, so I'm intrigued. I'm not gonna read on until we have our 10 minutes. But I am intrigued to see where this conversation about Taran goes because I feel like I'm hoping for it to actually be a conversation that progresses them letting go of Taran as the love interest, and leaning closer towards each other. But I feel like it might still be a little bit too soon, and that we're just gonna get more of them like snipping at each other and almost accidentally driving each other to cling onto Taran more. But we'll see. So I shall see you guys again at 13 past. Let's do that. Not me almost forgetting to unmute myself. We are back. Let me quickly pull out the chapter again. Oh goodness, it seems like there was quite a conversation while I was away. Like, is in a way a good way? Yep. Is it crazy? Yep. He literally runs hell. Only seen the show for Guardian, haven't read the novel, plan to though. And uh, Judy, I almost said Judy Long. Um, damn it, for sure, it's just the most developed in the show, I feel. Although, I gotta say, what the hell was going on? Yeah, the show was like a little nuts, but then so is the book in a very different way. So I feel like it's kind of a pick your poison, but at least it tastes nice. Either way, um, I don't know. Sorry, I'm late to the conversation, so I'm not the best contributor for this. But yeah, okay. So I have water with me, and I think we are more or less just ready to get back into it. Please just tell me if the audio is still okay. I have the volume one here with me. Oh, seems like there's a bit of a delay potentially. I'm not sure. Ah, that was an accident. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited for volume two. And did you guys see the Remnants of Filth new cover? I need to still post about it because I'm super terrified and excited. Hi, Julia. Sorry, I didn't see you in the comments before, but hi. Um, okay, are we ready to get back to this? Um, Fedu's posture was very relaxed, legs crossed and fingers laying on his knee. At these words, the corners of his eyes curved and he mockingly asked, What, does Tar- what, Taran's all ready to find someone to marry and you still want to fight it out with me? Oh, okay. Lowendraw was rather helpless. Then he shook his head and laughed, suddenly thinking the two of them were a little like survivors of the same disaster. Who could smile on meeting and forget their past in- enmities? I never know how to pronounce that. He unconsciously felt around for his cigarettes, then forced himself to put them back. Next to him, Fedu said, Go ahead and smoke. Didn't you have pharyngitis? Is that how you said? Asked Lo and Joel. Fedu shrugged. No, I was just nitpicking to make you uncomfortable. Lo and Joel. Dot dot dot. He was still a scoundrel after all. He couldn't resist giving Fedu a light punch on the shoulder, but Fedu turned out to be a true gentleman, pursuing the policy of use your mouth and not your fists. Suffering a surprise attack to his shoulder, his relaxed and elegant posture became unbalanced. His raised leg dropped, and Fedu hurriedly reached out a hand to support himself, ending up with a handful of mud. Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. I got excited for nothing. Not only did Lowendraw not apologize, he actually thought it was pretty funny. Next to Fedu, he heartlessly laughed out loud. Fedu, dot dot dot, barbarian. The two of them for once managed to coexist in peace for a long time. Are we talking like 5 minutes compared to 30 seconds? Because, okay. The force of the rain gradually slackened, and Lo and Joe returned the umbrella to Fedu. Taran has finished fixing up his new apartment. He'll be moving in this week. In a little while, we'll go over there and sit a while. Fedu didn't answer. Expressionlessly, he looked askance at him, and Lo and Joe oddly felt that he was like Lo Igor, both of them having that the world is full of mad dogs and I alone am elevated sort of scorn for the mortal world. Having found a new source of entertainment, he charged into the drizzle, covering his head, unable to suppress his laughter. At this stage, it was as if the smoke and dust of their deep resentment had dispersed, and the true state of affairs had come to light. Yay! The moment I have been waiting for, because now they can potentially start seeing each other in a different light, in my opinion. Um, just want to see her. Damn son went for the juggler. Absolutely correct, but the book still makes more sense. And it's happy ending, so yeah, no fair. And the follow-up work was proceeding busily but without agitation. It included synthesizing the testimony of Wang Hongliang and the other such people, as well as the police thoroughly eliminating any possibility that He Zhongyi had been involved with drugs. In the end, they were unable to pinpoint the origin of the mysterious text message and put it down, along with the two pinhole cameras found nearby, to the superstar Zhao Haocheng's performance. Hmm. Sounds like someone pulling strings somewhere, but okay. Although he steadfastly refused to acknowledge it, Ma Xiaowei was detained for several days, then sent to a drug rehabilitation center along with Wu Shuchun and some others, preparing to struggle to build a new life. Lo Wenzhou personally escorted the two of them into a car. Before leaving, Wu Shuchun looked deeply at him, and Lo Wenzhou nodded at her. He also patted Masha away on his head, which had been shaved so that it resembled a kiwi fruit. What a weird description. I mean, like illustrates it perfectly, but it's such a weird description nonetheless. You've escaped from calamity. Be careful in the future. The car drove off, and Lo and Ro smoked a cigarette by the road, sighing to himself for a moment, swallowing down two thorns that were like fish bones in his throat. Had Chen Zhen's death really been an accident, as Huang Jinglian had said? And how had the mistrustful black cab driver, faced with Wang Hongliang's desperately strict precautions, been able to get his slipshod report to the city bureau? Hadn't he been afraid that the city bureau and those people were a snake and a rat sharing the same burrow? Oops, sorry. That's a good point. With Chinjin's death, there was in the end no way to pursue these issues. His scalp still carried the warmth of the young policeman's hand. Ma Xiaowei silently sat in the car, watching the billboards quickly falling back on both sides of the road. At a red light, an unproposed, un, unproposing, that doesn't sound right, sedan stopped next to them. The car's window glinted, slowly rolling down, and in a crack the width of 2 fingers, the screen of a phone appeared. There was a privacy screen stuck onto it, so only from Marshall Way's point of view could the words on it be seen clearly. It said, "You did well." Marshall Way's eyes opened wide, and he shuddered. Before he'd had a clear look at the hand holding the phone, the sedan's window had already shut, and it parted ways with them up ahead. A week later, Feydu had bid goodbye to his psychiatrist of many years, and Tauren finally had a foundation in the city. He had moved into his new apartment, and a big crowd of rowdy friends and colleagues came for a housewarming. The new apartment looked quite respectable, but in fact it was a pushing 30. It was an overaged building, attractive on the outside but shabby within. Deputy Tao, let me tell you, right where you come in the door, you should put a retro clock, one of those kinds in European train stations. You can see the time, and it'll have the special feel. In that corner there, you can hang a terrarium. That's not right. And in the kitchen, you can have a whole new set of kitchen utensils. Lang Chao in an armchair was an armchair interior decorator from the moment she walked in. She was running around everywhere, setting the world to rights. When she stuck her head into the kitchen and saw Lowen Jaw with his back to her, holding a pot of well-blended sauces in one hand, Lang Chao was fully shocked. Goodness, boss, why are you here? Who would it be if not me? Your deputy Tao? You want noodles for the whole meal? I love that Lo and Joe can cook. Like, we get a man that can cook. I feel truly spoiled. Lang Chao hurried. Lo and Joe looked at her disdainfully. Move over. If you're not helping, then don't get in the way. Lang Chao hurried out of the way, watching him pour the sauce onto a plate of braised uh, The scent immediately steaming up. She swallowed a mouthful of saliva and wanted to pinch a piece of it, a piece to taste, but had her paw knocked away by Lowenjaw, who seemed to have grown eyes on the back of his head. Okay, I need to recover, cause like, I'm struggling. Okay. Why do you always go over to the dining hall to eat? Said Lang Chao. What else would I do? Lowenjaw took up a vegetable knife, quickly and evenly cut an onion into thin slices, then tossed all of it into a pot of cooking curry chicken. Go home by myself and make a scrumptious banquet to eat with the cat? Am I crazy? Lang Chow's eyes lit up. Right, you have a cat. Boss, you're a very dear colleague. Hurry up and let me have a look at your little kitten. Yeah, kitten. I wanted to say kitty and kitten at the same time and then it just came out weird. Straighten out your tongue when you talk. Lauren Jaw couldn't stand her pestering. He impatiently put the pot of curry on to simmer, then got his phone out of his pocket and opened a pet surveillance app. Look for yourself. It may not be in its bed. Listen, can your village change its totem? You can't worship something else. Worshipping a cat is so vulgar. What do you mean? You have a cat, and cats are brilliant. Meng Chao devotedly received the phone in both hands. As soon as the camera connected, an enormous cat's face appeared on the screen. Lu Yiguo loomed at the camera for a while. Then, having seen something, Master Cat leapt onto the windowsill. Right in front of Lo Wenjuo and Lang Chao, it performed an act of cruel and in feline harm towards a potted spider plant hanging over the windowsill. Oh no! With his eyes open, Lowenjaw watched it snatch and bite, extend its murderous claws against the spider plant's hanging basket, and pull the flower pot down to the ground. The beauty of the bone china flower pot and the plant passing away together. The dramatics! Oh my word! Passing away together. Lang Chao. Dot dot dot. This cat's style was pretty intense. She hesitatingly handed back the phone. So, my condolences? As a head of the household, Law and Draw rather wanted to leave home. Just then, Taran stuck his head in. What time did Feidu say he was coming? Will he be able to find the place? Law and Draw looked up out of the kitchen window and saw an enormous, garish SUV. The other Igor had already arrived. His head hurt briefly. He's downstairs. I see his car. Oh, he's been upgraded. He's been upgraded from just Feidu to the other Igor. I cannot. Um, it was a local custom to bring an article of cookware or a small kitchen appliance as a present when congratulating someone on an advancement. Feidu, remembering the city bearer's office smelling strongly of sesame oil, had simply bought a full automatic espresso machine. The weight of the big cardboard box, fully a meter high, really wasn't light. For Taran's sake, Feidu for once did a bit of manual labor, carrying the appliance over his shoulder to the elevator. Guys, I've enjoyed this way too much. And yes, of course, Lowenjo can cook. Someone in the family has to, and it ain't the Bratty, which fair. I briefly forgot. Here comes everyone's favorite king, Mr. Lo Igor. He is indeed the king of the hour. Words in his reign, and everyone's a slave. The man is here. Speaking of fur babies, how's yours? She's doing very well, thank you. She's very cute. She's kind of come out of her shell a little bit more now, but she's still very scared. We're slowly taking her out for walks, but literally just to like the end of the driveway and then coming back. So hopefully by the time we go on holiday, she'll be more prepared to go out into the wide open world and explore. But yeah, she's still very homebound and attached to us. Because I think it's just a lot to adjust to. But she's very cute. Okay, sorry, I shall stop gushing now. um, then faced with an elevator that had gone on strike, he exchanged helpless looks with some dog-walking old men who couldn't manage the stairs. After quite some time, he belatedly thought of something, got out his phone and called Taran. Gurr, what floor do you live on? The 12th, said Taran happily over the phone. The elevator's broken today. You could walk a couple of steps. That's not a couple of steps, though. They do. Dot dot dot. He looked down at the cardboard box, feeling that he seemed to have. Wait, what? He seemed to have screwed Law and Drawer. Where? What's the context there? I don't get it. Okay, chapter 35. Humbert 2. The repairman took his sweet time and arrived yawning his head off. He seemed very unlikely to return the elevator to full-blooded life immediately. The people who had been waiting gradually lost patience and left. The coffee maker's net weight was 12 kilograms. Adding in the packaging, it was close to 30 kilograms. Quite a bit of weight. Yeah, that, like, I was about to judge him, but no, that is quite a bit of weight. Uh, but while Feidu neglected to exercise, he was, after all, still a young man of appropriate age who could do whatever was needed. Carrying 20 or 30 kilograms upstairs actually wasn't much of a problem. The problem was what position he should use. The cube-shaped cardboard box is perhaps one of the most inhumane of inventions. Whether he carried it on his back, in his arms, or over his shoulder, the appearance would still be rather unsightly. Of course, that's what you worried about. President Fay envisioned envisaged a few positions, none of which he could reconcile with his aesthetic sensibilities. But even if it tore his shirts, he still had to carry the burden he had brought himself. Fedu helplessly stared at the cardboard box, which stared back at him, then decided to see the matter through despite the cost, lifting the box up in his spotless shoulder. Luckily, there was no one around but a few foul-mouthed retired old farts and some mangy dogs. Leave the poor people and dogs out of this. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Just as he was resignedly walking towards the stairwell, someone suddenly spoke up behind him. How many flights are you going up? Do you need me to help out? Freddy turned his head and saw a great beauty and a little beauty. Oh, that's cute. The great beauty was in her 20s and looked like a certain actress, very easy on the eyes. She was leading a little girl around 10 years old by the hand. The little girl's hair was done in a princess hairstyle, and she was wearing a pretty floral patterned dress. Slowly licking the ice cream she was holding, she curiously examined Feidu. In only half a second, Fedu came to a prompt decision and put down the box. Then he instantly took up a theatrical, floaty manner. He nodded and smiled at the others. I must be in your way. I'm truly sorry. It's all right. I wasn't going that way. I just saw you carrying something that looked pretty heavy, said the great beauty. She hesitated, then turned her head to look at the elevator. It's such a hot day, and the elevator suddenly broke. The property manager really is something else. How about waiting for the elevator? It may be fixed soon. Um, Famed playboy President Bay could have asked for nothing better. He happily forgot the time, let the little girl sit on his box, stood in the corridor with its mottled walls, and began to chat with the great beauty. Just in case you forgot that he is indeed bi. This man does not miss an opportunity at all. Um, it can't take 5 minutes to climb the stairs. Watching Law and Joel ladling out exotically scented curry chicken, Taran looked at his watch. Why isn't Feidu up here yet? Law and Joel was directing his subordinates grunts to set out the dishes. He lifted the lid of the casserole that was slowly stewing ham hocks. I don't know. Maybe he's put down roots and downstairs and started to sprout. I don't know why. Like I can just see a chibi illustration of Feidu becoming a vegetable and like sprouting roots. Why does my mind work like this? Um oh no, here comes the bi siren Rizzoli Rizdang. Oh my word, I love that autocorrect. Flirt alert, listen, love is all around us. You gotta be proactive. Good boy, Bedu. Oh, goodness. Saying so, he scooped up a tablespoon of broth and sipped it gently. He felt the flavor was all right, but it was still missing something. Do you have crystal sugar in the house? No, said Taran, changing his shoes as he answered. I'll go down and have a look for him and go buy a bag on my way. What kind do you want? Lorenzo frowned. He even needs someone to come pick him up when he's going up some stairs. He's a true spoiled young master. Turan gave a good-natured smile. But when he had just walked out, he saw Lorenzo making a face, following after him. Dot dot dot. Curiously, Turan asked, What are you doing? I'm going to buy crystal sugar, said Lorenzo. You don't know what kind to buy. Taran inexplicably saw the trace of conspicuous cover-up on his face. I'm so glad it's not just me. Taran and I are on the same page here. That's appreciated. What are you looking at? Said Lo and Joe. Taran thought about it. You seem to be getting on a lot better with Xiaofei lately. Lo and Joe's steps paused. Then, tossing his slippers, he pompously waved a hand. Who's getting on better with him? I just have better things to do than bother with a disgraceful piece of work. Amidst the furious banging of the repairman, the disgraceful piece of work, President Fay, was freely rolling out his long practiced elegance and, uh, and ease towards an attractive young lady. Smelling strongly of curry, Lu and Joe, while still in the stairwell, already had his eyes stung by the sight of the source of all evils, uh, bourgeoisie. Is that it? I don't know. I need to figure out how to pronounce that. He couldn't stand this behavior of Feiju's, thinking to himself that this bit of goods did nothing of value from morning to night. If he wasn't flirting, then he was teasing. Fortunately, his family had some money, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to find a job to support himself. I do wonder about that a little bit, but also, not gonna lie, I'm kind of side-eyeing Feidu a little bit for being so inconsiderate towards the people waiting for him to arrive. Like, he really said, oh, I'm over Tauran, and just dropped caring about the fact that Tauran was waiting for him. Uh, Cao Cao's gator was tingling like mad. Jealous are we? Hmm. Yeah, no, maybe. Maybe. I definitely see that, even though I didn't think of it like that. Um, Lo and Joe walked over irritably. A taunting, are your legs there just to vent air? Would you die of exhaustion climbing the stairs? Just rising to his lips when he suddenly heard Taran behind him sharply draw in a breath and nearly stand at attention on the spot. In a slightly trembling voice, he said, Chang, Changning? The beauty turned at once. First she stared, and then she smiled. Oh, Taran, what are you doing here too? Feidu and Lowenjo, without prearrangement, stopped where they were, their gazes simultaneously sweeping back and forth between the two of them, sniffing out a trace of something unusual from the way the two had called each other by name. Can the, like, judging people together like husbands but start now? Like, I know that this isn't quite that, but still. He's waiting for the elevator to be fixed. Yeah, that's it. The great beauty turned at once. First, she stared. Oh, wait, we read that, but sorry. Feidu and Lowenjo. Ah, damn it, I already read that, but sorry, I was just. Okay. The roots of Taran's ears reddened, and in an instant he forgot heaven and earth, forgot his limbs and his brethren. His swaying hands and feet stiffened into an uncoordinated set. He shifted over in front of the girl as if half paralyzed and stammeringly said, I'm gonna be living here. I'm just moving in. Why are you? Really? I live here too. Chung Ning smiled at him, displaying a pair of small dimples. We really are destined to meet. You see, I didn't lie to you, did I? Our estate really is a step away from the subway. Very convenient. First, Taran's head was set spinning by the words "destined to meet," and then he was forced to recall the failed dates. He at once began to babble incoherently as if he wanted to find the hole to carve into. Yes, no, well, I'm truly sorry. Last time I didn't see you home. Having heard this much, the forgotten Captain Law and President Fay already knew the girl's identity. Knowing was one thing, and seeing it with your own eyes was another thing. The two of them subconsciously exchanged a look, their thoughts and emotions complicated. I'm living for this. The person they had had a lengthy rival over and sulked about for an age was as straight as Sun Wukong's staff. I appreciate the reference. And right now, this golden cudgel, faced with his dream partner, was having an attack of straight guy stupidity. Oh, um, well, since my baby left me, oh goodness, yeah, no. Why couldn't I have a guy have like an attack of straight guy stupidity over me? Is that too much to ask? The two specially invited veteran rivals in love stood beside each other, silently looking on, with an affectingly heavy small household appliance between them. Outside the green trees cast lush shade, the summer heat beat down. The song of the cicadas clamored incessantly. The scene could be described as two rivals gazing on a green willow were sent up to the sky with a wooden club. What a description, damn. Only the little girl sitting on the cardboard box felt no impact. She finished crunching on her ice cream cone and reached out a little paw towards Feidu. Dagaga, do you have a paper towel? 3 minutes later, Taran had finally succeeded in issuing an invitation to his dream partner to come visit him. Chagning hesitated slightly, then nodded, seeming to have attained the proper next step. Deputy Captain Tao was so overjoyed that he was about to forget how to find north. He joyfully forgot the other two and solicitously took Changning up the stairs. Oh, I can't. The two men left behind, having been mocked by ice-cold reality, looked at each other helplessly. Lowenthal said, "My feelings are a little complicated." Mm-hmm. Feydeau collected his gaze in a very presidential manner, gesturing to the box next to him with his chin, indicating that the late-coming grunt should pick it up. He himself stuck his hands into his pockets and unhurriedly walked off. "You're gonna get in trouble, Feydeau." Lowenthal, It may have been his mistake, but he felt that Feydeau was acting more and more familiar with him. In the end, Lowenthal picked up the coffee maker without complaints, though while his body was honest, his mouth was still saying no. He snorted towards Feydeau's back. "You can't even lift this little thing? Do you have a renal deficiency, young man?" You really went there, didn't you? Hearing this, Feydeau turned and looked loftily down upon him from several steps up. "What, you want to try me?" I think he does. I really think he does. Lo and Jaw, dot dot dot. Perhaps he had been so provoked by the preceding scene that he urgently needed to change his target. Anyway, Feidu suddenly felt that this speechless expression of Lo and Jaw's was pretty funny. He considered Lo and Jaw, who was holding this heavy object in his arms, and a trace of mischief rose in his heart. He looked into Lo and Jaw's eyes. With his slightly light-colored irises folding Lo and Jaw's shrunken image, he suddenly drew near. Oh no. Oh no. Am I ready? I don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't know if I'm ready. Lorenzo's interest in men was inborn. He instinctively backed up, putting his foot down on the step below him. Fedu laughed lightly and said nothing. He only reached out a finger and tapped gently on the coffee maker's cardboard box. Mm-hmm. Two knocks seemed to reach the pit of one's stomach, incomparably unmentionable, unspeakably ambiguous. Mm-hmm. A small electric current went up Lorenzo's spine, producing a thin layer of warm sweat. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the main culprit, having finished his teasing, had already put his hands in his sleeves and sauntered up the stairs. Lorenzo. Dot dot dot. Asshole. Ah, okay, we're fine. I mean, thinking on that, some of the teasing that he does to Feidu later on, I feel is totally justified. If you remember my squealing about a certain stairwell scene, here it is. I appreciate this, yes. I fully agree that this is worth squealing over. Oh, oops. Sorry about that. Taran and Lorenzo had gone downstairs and picked up a goddess and a domineering director general with renal deficiency. A certain person had in the end forgotten to buy crystal sugar, so the crystal sugar ham hock had to be made with plain sugar as a substitute. The goddess Changning was an office worker who had recently been transferred to the Yan City branch of her company. She was single and temporarily living with her aunt. The girl with her was her cousin named Chen Chen. Chen Chen's parents weren't home, so the child had been entrusted to Chang Ning's care. Oh, I think I forgot about that. Like, I think in the show, I assumed she was her younger sister. So somehow it being her cousin makes the fact that things go the way they go so much worse. In a way, I don't know. Um, Once the new guests arrived, the lazing young people in Taran's living room at once boiled over with excitement. Some of them played with the child, and some of them jeered at Taran. Under these jeers, Taran's face and ears turned red, and he hit upon the strange idea of a source of calamity. Pointing to Lang Chao, he said, "Right, didn't you bring the silk banner? He's here now, hurry up and present it." Having been reminded, Lang Chao immediately dashed to the entrance hall and held up a bright red rolled silk banner with both hands. It unfurled, and the whole living room was at once dazzlingly enveloped by its advancing radiance. Oh goodness. They do. Dot dot dot. But it wasn't over yet. With care and respect, Lang Chao handed the silk banner to him, then took out a gold and red certificate of merit. "Comrade Feidu, our Director Lu said that I should give this to you and let Captain Law say a few words in his place. When he's finished handling Wang Hongliang's case, he'll be sure to hold the uh, commendation ceremony himself. Captain Law, do you want to say it, or should I say it?" I think he would very much prefer you say it. Louisville was just engaged in culinary battle and had no time to divide his attention. Amid the bubbling sounds of the kitchen he yelled, "What did you say? Taran, why has the range hood stopped working? Did your electricity go out?" Fedu was afraid that the policewoman would deliver a lengthy speech about core values at him. He quickly made his getaway, using the circuit breaker as an excuse. "I'll go have a look." Oh goodness. The unfulfilled Lang Chao blinked. Domineering director generals know how to do that kind of thing? When he was a teenager, Fedu had often hung out at Taran's rental apartment, accompanied by a host of broken down second-hand appliances. Taran lived roughly and frugally, never throwing away anything that could be repaired, not permitting Fedu to buy him anything new. As time went on, for his sake, Fedu had mastered all the skills of a repairman. Yes, okay, so he can at least contribute in some way to the like Law Windsor household. That's good. Okay, we appreciate that because we know he can bring the money, but sometimes you want him to bring something more than just money. The old building's electrical system. Wow, why was that so hard to say? Hadn't been converted. Inside were only elderly fuses. As soon as the power box was opened, a faint, scorched smell came from inside. A fuse had burnt out. Taran, having just moved in, definitely wasn't prepared. Pedu had to go downstairs and find a hardware store. When he was about to go out, he was stopped by Changling's little sister, Cheng Cheng. Dada, I forgot to buy a homework notebook before. Can I come with you? Ah, so that's how happened. Taking the little girl along, Feidu avoided a room full of rowdy young people and took a turn downstairs. In one fell swoop, he bought everything he needed and bought two cream puffs at a small shop on the street. He sat down on a stone bench in the estate and split the cream puff with Chen Chen. Grown-ups are too noisy, Chen Chen commented, like a little grown-up. Let's wait a while before going back. Feidu was about to joke with her when he had a sudden, inexplicable feeling that something was off. For no reason, he felt that he was being spied on. Okay, so that's just great. We love it when that happens. Um, I think we managed 3 chapters today instead of 4, so it does seem like the chapters are getting a little bit longer now, which means that unfortunately we're going to be going through them a little bit more slowly. But yeah, as I mentioned, just in case for anyone who didn't hear it at the start, I am going to be upping the silent reading read-alongs 2 times a week now because we finished with Scumberland Volume 2 and I don't want to start something new before the end of the year. So we're going to be doing silent reading again tomorrow as well, probably same time, but otherwise around, what did I say, 3 p.m. Yeah, 3 p.m. GMT. But yeah, you guys can just, once I'm sure about the time, I'll put up a scheduled live stream and then you can just put a reminder on. We love our useful boy. Also, there's something really sweet about the image of teen Feidu tinkering with all the broken appliances. Yeah, and I feel like it gives his character a little bit of depth as well because oftentimes, you'll have the spoiled rich boy thing, but there's no like gaps in that, and I feel like in real life there will be like weird quirks or weird moments of, oh, you wouldn't expect this person to know this, but they do know this for this or that reason. So I like that that was added in, and it feels very believable considering how he viewed Taran for so long. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me, and otherwise I'll see you guys again tomorrow. for chapter 36. I'm so excited to be able to go up until chapter 50 with this. So, anyway, again, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow. 再见。